Greetings. Before we proceed, it's a fun idea if you comment with your current location. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's make ourselves comfortable and begin. I always thought I had control over my life. I built my career on calm, calculated decisions. Being a cop wasn't just a job, it was an identity. People relied on me, trusted me. I took pride in that. But in my personal life, control felt like it was slipping. My wife, Marissa, had grown distant. It wasn't something I could pinpoint right away. Little things, a certain coldness when I tried to talk, the way she'd avoid eye contact during dinner, her sudden need for space when we were supposed to be building our family. I told myself it was the stress of parenting. Lily, our daughter, was only 4. Raising her wasn't easy, especially with both of us working. I thought Marissa's withdrawal was just exhaustion. Maybe my job had kept me too distracted. I ignored it, kept my head down, convincing myself that our love would find its way back. After all, we'd been through so much already. But deep down, something was wrong, and I had been too blind to face it. That night, it became impossible to ignore. I was out on patrol, late shift, responding to routine calls, domestic disputes, minor traffic violations. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced at it, a text from Marissa. "Heading out for a bit, don't wait up." I stared at the words for a moment, feeling the sting of her nonchalance. Where was she going this late? She was supposed to be home with Lily. My thoughts spiraled, but I forced them down. I had a job to do. I answered a call about a broken taillight a few blocks from home. As I pulled up behind the car, something felt off. The vehicle swerved slightly before coming to a halt. The driver hadn't even noticed me. I approached cautiously, my flashlight cutting through the dark. The sight that greeted me made my stomach drop. Marissa, drunk, nicked, in the back seat, her skin flushed, lips parted as she clung to the man beside her, her lover, Tony. His shirt was half open, his hand on her thigh. Both reeked of alcohol. I froze. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. Marissa, my wife, the mother of my child, completely lost in this moment of betrayal. My mouth went dry. "Marissa," I said, my voice barely recognizable. She looked at me, her eyes glassy, not with shame or fear, but with indifference. "You were supposed to be with Lily," I said, more accusation than question. My heart pounded in my chest, fury mixing with disbelief. Her reply hit me like a slap to the face. "I don't care, Daniel. Get lost." She slurred the words, her voice dripping with contempt. "You're not the boss of me." The air in my lungs vanished. I stared at her, feeling my world crack open, unraveling in front of me. Tony, the bastard, smirked, his hand still casually on her. Without another word, he started the engine. "Tony," I growled, stepping toward the car, but he floored the gas, tires screeching as they sped off. For a split second, I stood there, my mind a chaotic storm of anger and confusion. Then instinct took over. I jumped back into my patrol car and flicked on the siren. Adrenaline coursed through me as I followed them down the empty streets, their taillights weaving through the darkness. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I'd devoted my life to protecting people, to being the one others counted on, and now I couldn't even protect my own marriage. The chase lasted minutes but felt like an eternity. My heart raced, pounding in time with the siren. I kept telling myself I could fix this, somehow salvage what was left. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was nothing left to save. I could see them up ahead, Tony swerving the car recklessly. Then it happened. Too fast for me to react. The car veered off the road and slammed into a tree. The sound was deafening. Metal against wood, shattering glass, screeching brakes. I pulled up behind them, my breath caught in my throat. Smoke billowed from the wreckage. My hands shook as I approached the car. The front was crumpled, the windshield shattered. I reached for the door, pulling it open. Tony was slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling from his forehead. Marissa, she was in the passenger seat, motionless. For a second, everything went still. The sounds of the city faded. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart in my ears. I stared at her, my brain refusing to accept what was right in front of me. "Marissa!" I shouted, grabbing her shoulders, shaking her. Her head lolled to the side, eyes half open, empty. She was gone. I stood there, gripping her cold body, and felt something inside me snap. The rage, the disbelief, it all bled into something darker. The betrayal, the lawsuit. They wouldn't go unpunished. The funeral was quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that feels suffocating, pressing down on your chest. I stood by the grave, Lily's small hand in mine as the casket lowered into the earth. Marissa was gone, dead. And yet all I felt was a hollow ache. I wasn't grieving her, not really. I was grieving the life I thought we had, the marriage, the family, the trust. That had been buried long before the crash. I glanced around. Marissa's sister, Clara, stood a few feet away, her face pale, eyes red-rimmed from crying. She wasn't looking at the casket, she was staring at me. Her gaze lingered, sharp, almost accusatory. I turned away. I had more pressing things to worry about than whatever Clara thought of me. Days passed in a blur after the funeral. I kept my focus on Lily, taking her to school, helping her with homework. She was the only thing tethering me to reality, the only thing that kept me from losing my mind. Every night after she was asleep, I replayed that night, the broken tail light, the crash, over and over. The guilt gnawed at me, but not for the reasons people would expect. It wasn't just the chase, it was everything before. The nights I ignored Marissa's distance, the way I rationalized her coldness. I should have seen it coming. I should have known. Then came the lawsuit. I was sitting at home, finishing a late dinner with Lily when the doorbell rang. A man in a suit stood on my porch holding a stack of papers. His expression was neutral, almost bored. He handed me the documents without a word. I skimmed the first few amens. Wrongful death, negligence, murder. Clara was suing me, accusing me of causing Marissa's death by chasing her that night, accusing me of murder. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My heart pounded in my chest as I read through the claims. Clara was painting me as a vengeful husband, a cop who'd abused his authority to punish his cheating wife. She was twisting the story, turning me into the villain. My head spun. Murder? I didn't kill Marissa. I was trying to stop her from making a mistake, from putting herself in danger. But now it didn't matter. Clara was out for blood. The betrayal stung deep, worse than Marissa's affair. Clara had always been close to Marissa, but I never expected this. I'd known her for years, trusted her even, and now she was trying to ruin my life, using my own grief against me. I had no choice but to fight back. The next morning I started digging. Clara wasn't just some grieving sister lashing out. No, there was more to this. I could feel it. I knew her well enough to know that she was too calculating for this to just be about Marissa's death. I called in a favor from a friend in the department. Access to phone records, financials, anything that might give me leverage. As I waited for the information to come in, I started piecing things together. Clara's sudden hostility, the timing of the lawsuit, the way she seemed to relish in the accusations. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't even just about Marissa. Clara had her own agenda. She wanted something, and I had a sinking feeling I knew what it was: control. I thought about her at the funeral, the way she looked at me, almost daring me to react. I hadn't given her the satisfaction, but now I was ready. She wanted to destroy me. I'd make sure she regretted it. That night I sat down with Lily, reading her a bedtime story. Her innocent eyes, the way she clung to me for comfort, it fueled my resolve. I wasn't going to let Clara take this from me. I wasn't going to lose everything because of her lies. The next day, I received the records I'd requested. It was a gold mine. Phone calls between Clara and Tony, Marissa's lover. Multiple calls, some made before Marissa even knew him. What the hell had Clara been doing, contacting Tony behind Marissa's back? I felt a sick sense of vindication. This was bigger than I'd thought. I started putting the pieces together. Clara wasn't just grieving her sister. She'd been involved in Marissa's affair, orchestrating things behind the scenes. Was it out of jealousy? Revenge? Maybe she hated me so much she wanted to destroy our marriage from the start. Or maybe it was something darker, something more twisted. I confronted her. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I went straight to her house, knocked on the door, and when she answered, I shoved the phone records in her face. "What the hell is this, Clara?" My voice was cold, controlled. I wasn't going to let her see how much this was affecting me. "Why were you talking to Tony?" Her face paled, but she recovered quickly, her expression hardening. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb with me," I snapped. "I have the records. You were in contact with Tony before Marissa even knew him. What were you doing, Clara?" "Setting her up?" She didn't answer, just stared at me, her lips pressed into a thin line. I could see the wheels turning in her head, calculating her next move. "You were pushing her," I continued, stepping closer. "Pushing her into that affair." "Why?" She crossed her arms, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "You're losing it, Daniel. Don't give me that bullshit." My voice rose, anger boiling beneath the surface. "I'm on to you, Clara. You want to take me down? Fine. But don't think for a second I'm going to let you ruin my life without a fight." For a moment, there was silence between us. Then she chuckled softly. It was a cold, humorless sound. "You always were too trusting, Daniel. You never saw it coming, did you?" I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. She was playing a game, and I wasn't going to lose my temper. Not yet. "You think you're smart," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "But you don't know who you're messing with." Clara's smirk faded, her eyes narrowing. "We'll see about that." I left her house, my mind racing. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I needed more. I needed to know why. Why was Clara so determined to destroy me? What had I done to deserve this level of hatred? The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. Clara wasn't just trying to punish me for Marissa's death. This was personal. It was deeper, older. I started digging into Clara's past, her relationship with Marissa, her failed relationships, her financial struggles. It all pointed to one thing. Clara had always resented me. She saw me as the one who took Marissa away from her, the one who had the life she thought she deserved. I was building a case against her, brick by brick, waiting for the right moment to strike. Clara had blindsided me with a lawsuit, but I wasn't caught off guard anymore. I was calculating every move, planning my revenge with precision. And then, just when I thought I had enough, I uncovered something even darker. Clara hadn't just been involved with Tony. She'd been funneling money to him, paying for his expenses, keeping him on a leash. She was the one pulling the strings all along. Marissa was just collateral damage in her twisted game. I smiled to myself, a cold, satisfied smile. Clara had no idea what was coming. She thought she could destroy me, but I was one move ahead. Now it was my turn to play. I don't sleep much anymore. The moment I close my eyes, I see Marissa, her body in that car, lifeless, and then Clara's face, twisted in grief, but not real grief. No, it's something darker, calculated. She's always been a snake, and now I'm starting to understand just how deep her venom runs. The phone records, the money transfers, they're proof, and I have them. But Clara's careful. This is a game, and she's been playing it for a long time. She thought she could make me the fall guy, but she doesn't know me. I'm not a man who breaks. I'm a man who plans. I dig deeper. It's not just about the affair anymore. It's about Clara's obsession with control, her need to ruin me, to take everything from me. I can see it now, how she manipulated Marissa, pushed her into Tony's arms. Clara's not just a grieving sister. She's the architect of this whole mess. I start gathering more evidence. I track Clara's calls, her financials. She's been funneling money into accounts connected to Tony for months, maybe even years. The timeline overlaps perfectly with when Marissa started acting strange, when she began pulling away from me. It wasn't just the affair that destroyed my marriage. It was Clara. She's been behind everything, pulling strings, feeding Tony just enough to keep him hooked. She didn't care about Marissa. She cared about control. I feel the rage building inside me, but I keep it in check. This is a chess match, and I can't afford to move too quickly. I start laying the groundwork, leaking small pieces of information to the right people. An anonymous tip here, a whispered rumor there. It's subtle, but it's enough to plant doubt about Clara's innocence. She's good at playing the victim, but I'm better at playing the long game. One evening, I get a call from my old friend Jack, who still works at the department. "Dan, something's up," he says, his voice low. "Clara's been making moves. She's got people talking, trying to pin Tony's drug business on you." I grip the phone tighter. Of course, she's trying to bury me deeper. "What's the plan?" I ask. "She's spinning it like you were in on Tony's operation, using your badge to protect him." It's getting traction. I stay quiet for a moment, letting the anger simmer. She's good, I'll give her that. But I'm better. "Let her try," I say finally. "I've got something she doesn't know about." Jack doesn't press. He trusts me, and that's all I need. I hang up and sit there in the dark, thinking. Clara's playing dirty, but she's overreaching. She's desperate now, trying to throw everything at me. I can feel the end game approaching, and I'm ready for it. I spend the next week preparing. I review everything I've collected, the phone records, the emails, the bank transfers. It's all there, a web of deceit that ties Clara to Tony and Marissa's downfall. She's been orchestrating this for years, slowly tightening the noose around my neck. But I'm about to turn the tables. I leak more information, this time to a few well-placed reporters. The stories start to circulate, questions about Clara's relationship with Tony, about her involvement in his criminal activities. It's slow at first, but then it picks up speed. Clara's name starts popping up in places she doesn't want it to be. She tries to play it off, but I can see the cracks forming. People are starting to ask questions, and she doesn't have the answers. The tension is building, and I know it's only a matter of time before Clara makes a move. She's not the type to sit back and let things spiral out of control. She'll try to hit me where it hurts. I'm ready when she does. One night, there's a knock at my door. I open it to find Clara standing there, her face a mask of calm. But I can see the fury in her eyes. She's barely holding it together. "We need to talk," she says, pushing past me into the house. I close the door and follow her into the living room. "Talk, or are you here to accuse me of something else?" Clara turns, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You think you're clever, don't you? Leaking those stories, trying to drag my name through the mud." I don't respond. I just watch her, waiting. She's unraveling, and I want to see how far she'll go. "You think you're going to win this, Daniel?" she continues, her voice rising. "You're not. I've been building this case for months, and when it's over, you'll be the one going down for Tony's crimes. You'll lose everything." I step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "And what about you, Clara? You've been hiding in the shadows, pulling strings. But I've got the proof now. You're just as dirty as Tony was." Her eyes narrow, and for a moment, I see something flash across her face. Fear. But it's gone as quickly as it came. "You don't have anything on me," she snaps. "And even if you did, no one would believe you." I pull out my phone and hit play. The recording fills the room, her voice, cold and calculated, talking about the money she funneled to Tony, about how she manipulated Marissa. Clara's face drains of color as the truth spills from the speaker. "You see, Clara," I say quietly, "you made one mistake. You underestimated me." For the first time, Clara looks truly afraid. She stumbles back, shaking her head. This won't hold up in court." "It doesn't have to," I reply. "All I need is for people to hear it. The truth will destroy you." Clara's chest rises and falls rapidly, panic setting in. She knows she's cornered. There's no way out, no more lies she can spin to escape this. But instead of backing down, she lunges at me, her hands clawing at my face. I grab her wrists, shoving her away. She stumbles, tripping over the coffee table and falling hard onto the floor. I stand over her, my breath heavy, my mind racing. I could end it all right now. I could let her go down for this, or I could finish what she started. But then I think of Lily, of everything I've already lost. I can't let this ruin me too. I take a step back, my hands shaking. "Get out of my house, Clara," I say through clenched teeth. She stares up at me, her eyes wide with shock. For a moment, she looks like she might say something, but then she scrambles to her feet and rushes out the door. I collapse onto the couch, my head in my hands. The adrenaline is wearing off, leaving me exhausted, drained. But I'm not done yet. I still need to bring this whole thing crashing down on her. The next morning, I make my move. I take the recording to my lawyer, along with all the evidence I've gathered. It's enough to blow her case against me out of the water. Clara's lies, her manipulation. It's all there, laid bare for anyone to see. The legal battle that follows is intense. Clara fights tooth and nail, trying to discredit me, trying to twist the narrative in her favor. But I've built my case too well. Every move she makes, I'm one step ahead. I know her tactics, her tricks, and I use them against her. As the trial drags on, I see her unraveling. She's losing control, her carefully constructed facade cracking under the pressure. The media turns against her, the public starts to doubt her story, and then, finally, the truth comes out. It's a quiet moment in the courtroom, a cross-examination. Clara's lawyer is trying to salvage what little credibility she has left, but it's too late. The jury sees through the lies, and the judge is ready to deliver the final blow. Clara's found guilty of perjury, of fraud, of conspiracy. She's sentenced to prison, and I watch as she's led away in handcuffs. There's no satisfaction in it, no victory, just a hollow emptiness where my life used to be. After the trial, I return home to Lily. She's still too young to understand everything that's happened, but she knows enough. She knows her mother's gone, and that I've been fighting to protect us. I tuck her into bed, sitting beside her until she falls asleep. As I sit there in the dark, I realize something. Revenge didn't fix anything. It didn't bring Marissa back. It didn't heal the wounds Clara opened. It just left me standing alone with nothing but the ashes of what my life used to be. But maybe that's enough. Maybe knowing that Clara can't hurt anyone else is the only closure I'll ever get. I stand up, take a deep breath, and walk out of the room. Tomorrow, I'll start picking up the pieces. But tonight, I'm just a father who survived the storm. Clara's house is dark when I pull up. The street is quiet, the kind of eerie silence that makes your skin prickle. I park a block away just out of sight and step out of the car, pulling the hood of my jacket over my head. The air is cold, biting at my skin, but I ignore it. I'm not here for comfort. I'm here to end this. I've been tracking Clara for weeks, learning her patterns, waiting for the right moment. Tonight, she's alone. No lawyers, no press, no friends. Just her, vulnerable. It's the opportunity I've been waiting for. I move quickly but quietly, slipping through the shadows until I reach the side of her house. There's a window slightly ajar, just enough for me to slide it open without much noise. I climb through, landing softly on the floor. The inside of the house smells like old perfume and desperation. I'm hit by the weight of it, the years of lies she's spun, the manipulation, the destruction she's caused. But none of that matters now. I make my way through the house, my footsteps deliberate, controlled. Every part of me is buzzing with adrenaline, but I keep my mind sharp. This isn't about emotion. This is about control, about getting what I came here for, the evidence. I know she's got something hidden, something that could ruin me for good if it gets out. She's been careful, but so have I. I'm going to find it before she can use it. I hear her upstairs. The creak of floorboards, the sound of drawers opening and closing. She's probably pacing, thinking of her next move. She always has a plan, always one step ahead, or at least she thinks so. But not tonight. I reach the base of the stairs and pause, listening. She doesn't know I'm here. I can hear her talking to herself, low murmurs I can't quite make out. Then the rustle of papers. She's in her office. I climb the stairs slowly, staying close to the wall to avoid the creaky spots. My pulse is steady. I've been in worse situations than this. High-stakes drug busts, armed standoffs. But this is different. This is personal. This is revenge. When I reach the top, I see her. She's hunched over her desk, rifling through a pile of documents, her back to me. I step into the room, closing the door behind me with a quiet click. She freezes, her hand hovering over the papers, then slowly turns to face me. The look in her eyes is a mix of surprise and something darker. Fear. Daniel. Her voice is cold, steady, but I can hear the tremor beneath it. She straightens up, trying to regain her composure, but it's too late. I've already seen her panic. You didn't expect me, did you? I say, my voice low, controlled. She swallows, her eyes darting to the desk, to the papers scattered across it. She's calculating, trying to figure out her next move. I take a step closer and she backs up slightly, bumping into the edge of the desk. What are you doing here? She asks, her voice firmer now, trying to assert control. I came for what's mine, I reply, taking another step forward. You've been collecting things, haven't you? Photos, recordings, anything you can use against me. Her eyes widen, but she doesn't deny it. Of course she doesn't. We're beyond lies now. She knows that. You think you can just break in here and take whatever you want? She snaps, her voice rising. I'll call the police. I laugh, a short, bitter sound. Go ahead, call them. I'll tell them everything. How you've been stalking me, how you've been fabricating evidence, how you pushed Marissa into Tony's arms. Her face pales at the mention of Marissa. I can see the cracks forming, the careful mask she wears starting to crumble. You don't know what you're talking about, she says, her voice trembling now. You don't have proof. I pull out my phone and tap the screen. The recording of her conversation from a week ago fills the room. Her voice, her confessions, her plans to frame me, to bury me under a mountain of lies. Her face goes white as she hears it. I have all the proof I need, I say, stepping closer until I'm just inches away from her. And you have nothing. She stares at me, her eyes wide, desperate. You can't do this, she whispers, shaking her head. You can't win. I lean in, my voice barely above a whisper. Watch me. For a moment, everything is still. Then Clara lashes out, her hands clawing at my face, her nails digging into my skin. I grab her wrists, forcing her back against the desk, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. You always were a fighter, I mutter, tightening my grip on her wrists. But you're out of moves, Clara. She struggles against me, but I don't let go. I hold her there, forcing her to face the reality she's created. The reality she's tried so hard to control, but it's slipping away and she knows it. Let me go, she hisses through clenched teeth. But there's no real power behind the words. She's scared now, really scared. I let go of her wrists and step back, watching as she stumbles, her eyes darting around the room, looking for an escape. But there's none. This is over, I say, my voice firm. You've lost. Her chest rises and falls rapidly, and for a moment I think she's going to break down. But then something shifts in her eyes, a flash of defiance, a last-ditch effort to regain control. You think you've won? She spits, her voice sharp, cutting. You think this is the end? I stay silent, watching her. You may have the recording, she continues, but I have something better, something that'll ruin you for good. My jaw tightens. She's bluffing. She has to be. She sees my hesitation and smiles, a twisted, bitter smile. You didn't think I'd leave everything in one place, did you? I'm not stupid, Daniel. There's more. So much more. I step toward her, my heart pounding in my chest. Where? Her smile widens. You'll never find it. And by the time you do, it'll be too late. I'll make sure of it. I grab her arm, yanking her close, my face inches from hers. Tell me where it is. She laughs, a cruel, hollow sound. You're in over your head, Daniel. You always were. I let go of her, my mind racing. She's bluffing. She has to be. But what if she's not? What if there's something out there, something I haven't found yet, something that could destroy everything I've worked for? I can't take that chance. I turn away from her, scanning the room, looking for anything I might have missed. My eyes land on a small safe in the corner, half hidden behind a stack of boxes. Clara sees where I'm looking, and her smile fades. Don't, she says, her voice shaking now. Don't you dare. I ignore her and cross the room, kneeling in front of the safe. It's locked, of course, but I've seen enough safes like this to know how to crack them. I press my ear to the door, turning the dial slowly, listening for the clicks. Clara's behind me, pacing, muttering to herself, but I block her out. I focus on the safe, on the task at hand. One click, two, then a third. The door pops open. Inside there are files, stacks of them, along with a small digital recorder. I grab the recorder first, pressing play. Clara's voice fills the room again, this time detailing her plans to frame me for Tony's drug operation, how she's been working with his old contacts to pin everything on me. My hands tremble as I set the recorder down, sifting through the files. Bank statements, emails, documents that tie Clara to Tony's criminal activities, all of it meticulously organized. This is it, the final piece I needed. I stand up, turning to face Clara. She's pale, her eyes wide with fear. You, she stammers, but she can't find the words. I hold up the recorder. This is the end. She lunges at me again, desperation in her eyes, but this time I'm ready. I sidestep her, and she crashes to the floor, hitting her head on the corner of the desk. She lets out a cry, clutching her head as blood seeps through her fingers. For a moment, I just stand there watching her. I could end it right now. I could walk away and let her bleed out. No one would know. No one would care. But then I think of Lily, of what it would mean if I crossed that line. I can't be that man, not for her, not for myself. I grab my phone and call an ambulance, my voice steady as I give them the address. Then I kneel beside Clara, pressing a towel to her head to stop the bleeding. Her eyes flutter open and she looks up at me, confusion and fear clouding in her gaze. "Why?" she whispers, her voice weak. I don't answer. I just hold the towel to her wound and wait for the sirens to arrive. When they do, I step back, letting the paramedics take over. I watch as they load her into the ambulance, my mind spinning with everything that's just happened. This isn't over. Not yet. But I've won the first round. And now I'm ready for whatever comes next. Clara's face is pale, her eyes barely open as the paramedics strap her to the gurney. Her head is wrapped in gauze, blood staining the white bandages. I stand to the side, watching them lift her into the ambulance. I should feel something, relief, satisfaction, even guilt. But there's nothing. Just the cold realization that this is far from over. I called for help, not because I'm a saint, but because I'm not like her. Clara wanted me to become the monster, to lose myself in revenge, but I won't give her that satisfaction. The truth is, leaving her to die would have been the easy way out, but there's something more powerful in knowing that she'll live. She'll have to face everything that's coming. As the ambulance doors close, the sound of the sirens fades into the night. I turn away and head to my car. My mind is racing, piecing together the next steps. I have the evidence, the recordings, the files, the proof of her manipulation. I've won this battle, but the war isn't over. I drive home in silence, the streets empty, my thoughts heavy. Every mile feels like another weight pressing down on me. The evidence is solid. It's enough to clear my name, expose Clara for what she really is, and end her twisted vendetta. But I know she won't go quietly. Clara's not the type to admit defeat. She'll fight, even from a hospital bed. By the time I reach home, it's past midnight. The house is dark, except for the soft glow coming from Lily's nightlight in her room. I step inside, closing the door quietly behind me. The house feels like a stranger's now, cold, distant, nothing like the home it used to be before Marissa's betrayal shattered everything. I walk to Lily's room, pausing at the door. She's sound asleep, her small body curled up under the covers, her stuffed bear clutched tightly in her arms. I stand there for a moment, watching her, wondering how much longer I can keep this mess from her. She's too young to understand, but she knows something's wrong. Kids always do. I lean against the door frame, my chest tightening with the weight of it all. The lawsuit, the lies, the manipulation, it's poisoned everything. My career, my family, my sense of who I was. Clara has done more damage than Marissa ever did, and that's the real betrayal. She didn't just want to ruin me. She wanted to take everything. I leave Lily's room and head to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water. I stare at the reflection of my tired face in the window. This isn't over yet. I've exposed Clara, but the fallout is coming. The media will latch onto this story like vultures. The department will be forced to investigate. My reputation will take a hit, even if I'm cleared. And Clara, she'll use every last bit of strength to claw her way out of the mess she created. I set the glass down and pull out my phone, scrolling through the recordings again. Clara's voice fills the quiet kitchen. Her arrogance, her desperation, all laid bare. Basfuen, this is my leverage, my way out. But what kind of life will I have once this is over? The next morning, the legal battle begins. My lawyer, Steve, is confident, but I can hear the strain in his voice when we talk. Clara's lawyers are going to try everything, he says, leaning back in his chair as we sit in his office. They'll spin this as self-defense. They'll claim she was under duress, manipulated by Tony. I nod, tapping my fingers on the armrest. What about the recordings? They're solid, but they'll argue context. They'll say you provoked her, that you set her up. I didn't. I know. But Clara's got money, connections. She'll drag this out, make it messy. I clench my jaw, the tension building in my chest. We have enough to bury her. Steve gives me a hard look. Yeah, but this isn't about the truth, Dan. It's about perception. Clara knows how to play the victim, and the media loves a sob story. Be ready for them to turn this around on you. I lean forward, my eyes locked on his. I'm ready. Steve nods, but I can see the doubt in his eyes. We'll file the countersuit, expose her manipulation, but don't expect this to end quickly. Clara's not the type to go down without a fight. I leave his office, my mind buzzing with everything we discussed. Clara will fight, but I'm not backing down. I've come too far. I've sacrificed too much. I'm not going to let her take any more from me. The next few weeks are a blur of legal motions, interviews, and constant media attention. The tabloids eat up the story, the cop accused of causing his wife's death, the grieving sister suing for justice. They don't care about the truth. They want drama, conflict, blood. But slowly the tide starts to turn. The recordings leak to the press, painting Clara as the manipulative puppet master she is. Reporters start digging into her past, uncovering her ties to Tony, her history of control and deceit. Public opinion shifts. The lawsuit weakens. Clara's story begins to unravel. Then comes the final blow. A financial investigation into Tony's dealings links back to Clara. It turns out she wasn't just manipulating Marissa. She was laundering money through Tony's criminal enterprise. The evidence is irrefutable. The case against me crumbles, and the media turns on Clara. But even as her world falls apart, Clara doesn't give up. She files a new lawsuit from her hospital bed, claiming emotional distress, accusing me of ruining her life, of pushing her to the brink. It's a desperate move, a last-ditch effort to regain control, but it's enough to drag me back into the mess. I sit with Steve, going over the new claims, my head pounding with frustration. She won't stop, I say, my voice tight with anger. She'll keep coming after me until there's nothing left. Steve sighs, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Legally, we're in a good position, but emotionally, mentally, this is going to wear you down. I lean back, running a hand through my hair. I'm not letting her win. Not after everything she's done. Steve looks at me, his expression softening. I get it, Dan, I do. But sometimes the best revenge is walking away. Let her destroy herself. You don't need to keep fighting. I stare at him, the words sinking in. Walk away? After everything? After losing Marissa? After watching Clara try to tear my life apart? It feels like giving up. But maybe he's right. Maybe there's no real victory here. Maybe there never was. The legal proceedings drag on for months, but eventually, Clara's case collapses under the weight of her own lies. She's publicly disgraced, her reputation shattered. The media moves on to the next scandal, and I'm left standing in the ruins of everything she tried to destroy. But it doesn't feel like a win, not really. I'm back home, sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the legal documents that officially clear my name. The countersuit was settled. Clara is facing charges for fraud and money laundering. It's over, but there's no relief, no sense of triumph, just a hollow emptiness. I hear Lily's laughter from the living room, her voice a small ray of light in the darkness that's consumed my life for so long. I get up and walk toward her, watching as she plays with her toys, completely unaware of the storm that's finally passed. I sit beside her, watching her build a tower with her blocks. She looks up at me and smiles, that innocent, untainted smile that reminds me of everything I've fought for. "Daddy, look," she says, holding up her creation proudly. I force a smile, nodding. "That's beautiful, Lily." But even as I sit there with her, I can't shake the weight pressing down on me. Clara's gone, but the scars remain. My career will never be the same. The department has distanced itself from me, the whispers and rumors too strong to completely ignore. I'm not the man I was before this all started, and I don't know if I ever will be again. I tuck Lily into bed that night, sitting with her until she falls asleep. As I watch her, I think about everything that's happened. The betrayal, the lies, the revenge. It's all taken its toll. But as I look at her peaceful face, I know one thing. I did what I had to do to protect her, to protect us. But the cost was high, too high. I leave her room and walk outside, the cool night air washing over me. I stand there staring up at the sky, wondering if it was all worth it. Clara's gone, her web of lies destroyed, but I'm left standing in the wreckage of my life. I close my eyes, taking a deep breath. Revenge may have brought me justice, but it didn't bring me peace. And now all I can do is try to rebuild what's left. As I turn to go back inside, I hear a soft buzz from my phone. A text from Steve. "Clara's in custody. It's over." I stare at the words, my chest tightening. It's over, finally. But somehow it doesn't feel like the end. It feels like the beginning of something new, something unknown. I slip the phone back into my pocket and walk into the house, closing the door behind me. Tomorrow, I'll start again. Tomorrow, I'll begin the long road back. But tonight, I'm just a man who survived. The courtroom feels colder than it should. I'm sitting at the defendant's table, my lawyer to my left, Clara directly across from me. She's pale, thinner than the last time I saw her, but her eyes are still sharp. Even through the layers of makeup and the carefully composed expressions, I can see the desperation in her. She's holding on by a thread, and today, I'm here to cut it. The judge enters, the murmurs in the room quieting immediately. I sit straight, my jaw clenched. This is it, the final confrontation. After months of legal warfare, after countless nights spent poring over evidence, this is where it all ends. Clara thinks she's going to walk away from this, that her lies, her manipulation will somehow save her. But I've been ready for this moment from the start. I've played the long game. She doesn't know it yet, but she's already lost. The prosecutor stands, opening his argument, presenting Clara as the victim of a cruel conspiracy. I tune out the rhetoric. It's the same story they've been spinning from day one. Clara's lawyers have painted her as a grieving sister who was driven to extremes by my relentless pursuit of revenge. They're trying to use the fact that I'm a cop, playing the angle that I abused my authority, manipulated evidence, even forced her into a corner where she had no choice but to fight back. It's all bullshit, of course, but they're good. They know how to twist things just enough, make me look like the cold, calculated villain in this story. I've been fighting that perception since the lawsuit started. My lawyer, Steve, leans in. They're going to go hard today. Expect Clara to pull out every trick she has left. I'm ready, I say, my voice low but firm. I'm not here to play games, not anymore. When the prosecutor finishes, Clara takes the stand. She's wearing a soft blue dress, the kind meant to evoke sympathy. Her voice trembles just enough as she recounts her version of events. How I chased her and Marissa that night. How I drove Marissa to her death. How I've harassed her ever since. She plays the part perfectly, and I can see the jury watching her, some of them clearly moved by her performance. But they don't know what I know, and they're about to. It's my turn next. I take the stand, keeping my eyes on Clara as I speak. I lay out everything. Tony's involvement with Clara long before Marissa ever entered the picture, the money Clara funneled to him, the recordings of her plotting to destroy me. I can see the shift in the jury as I speak. They're listening now, really listening. Then comes the real blow. Steve plays the recording of Clara admitting, in her own voice, how she manipulated Marissa into the affair, how she used Tony to ruin my marriage, how she planned to pin everything on me after the accident. Her voice fills the room, every word dripping with the malice she's tried to hide. Clara's face turns ashen. She glances at her lawyer, but there's nothing they can do. The truth is out. She's exposed. The prosecutor tries to object, tries to regain control, but it's too late. The jury has heard everything. The mask Clara wore so well is crumbling, and there's no hiding behind it anymore. When the session ends for the day, I walk out of the courtroom, feeling a strange calm settle over me. It's almost over. Clara's lies have been laid bare for the world to see, and soon the verdict will come down. But even as I walk through the courthouse halls, I can't shake the weight pressing on my chest. The battle, this endless fight, has consumed me for so long. It's defined me, and now that it's almost over, I'm not sure what's left. Outside, the reporters swarm, their cameras flashing, microphones shoved in my face. I ignore them, making my way to my car. I don't have anything to say to them. I'm not here for a victory lap. I drive home, the silence in the car thick and heavy. Lily's at school, and the house is empty when I get back. I sit at the kitchen table, staring at the wall, my mind racing through everything that's happened. The truth is, I've won. Clara's finished. Her reputation is in ruins, her case against me destroyed. But as I sit there, I realize winning doesn't feel like I thought it would. The sound of my phone buzzing pulls me out of my thoughts. It's Steve. They've reached a verdict, he says, his voice steady. Clara's guilty on all counts: fraud, perjury, conspiracy. I nod, even though he can't see me. Good. We should meet tomorrow to go over the final paperwork, he continues. But Dan, it's over. You did it. Yeah, I say, my voice hollow. I did. I hang up, staring down at my hands. They're steady, but I feel the exhaustion deep in my bones. Clara's going to prison. There's no coming back from what she's done. And yet, as I sit there in the quiet of my house, I can't help but feel like something's missing. I get up and walk to the living room, sitting on the couch and looking around at the space that used to feel like home. Everything looks the same, but it's not. Not really. Marissa's gone. The woman I thought I knew, the life we built together, it's all ashes now. Clara may have lit the match, but the fire was already smoldering long before she came along. I think of Lily, of how I'll explain all of this to her one day. She's still too young to understand, but she'll have questions. She'll want to know why her mother isn't here, why her aunt tried to destroy our lives. And I don't have answers for her, not any that makes sense. The next day, I'm back in the courtroom for Clara's sentencing. She sits at the defendant's table, her hands clasped in her lap, her face pale but composed. When the judge reads out the sentence, 10 years in prison, she doesn't flinch. She knew this was coming. I watch her as she's led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. She doesn't look at me, doesn't acknowledge my presence, but as she passes by, I can't help but wonder if in some twisted way, she thinks she won. She's dragged me through hell, and even though she's lost, the damage has been done. After the sentencing, I leave the courthouse and stand outside, the cool breeze cutting through the afternoon heat. It's over. Clara's gone, her lies exposed, her life in ruins. But I don't feel like I've won. Not really. Revenge brought me justice, but it didn't bring me peace. I walk to my car, my steps slow, heavy. As I drive home, I think about everything that's happened. Marissa's betrayal, the crash, Clara's manipulation. It's like a weight pressing down on my chest, a weight I don't know how to shake. When I get home, Lily's waiting for me, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her face lighting up when she sees me. She runs to me, throwing her arms around my waist, and for a moment I feel a flicker of something, hope maybe, or the promise of something better. "Daddy," she says, looking up at me with her big innocent eyes. "Can we go to the park today?" I smile, ruffling her hair. "Yeah, we can go to the park." We spend the afternoon playing on the swings, chasing each other around the playground. For those few hours, everything feels normal, like the world hasn't been turned upside down. But even as I push Lily on the swing, watching her laugh, that hollow feeling lingers. I've spent so long fighting, so long consumed by revenge that now that it's over, I don't know who I am anymore. The battle defined me, shaped me, and now I'm left wondering what's next. Later that night, after Lily's asleep, I sit on the porch staring out into the darkness. The silence is thick, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I've won. Clara's gone, her lies exposed, her life destroyed. But at what cost? I think of Marissa, of the life we had before everything fell apart. I wonder if things could have been different, if I could have saved us somehow. But deep down, I know the truth. We were broken long before Clara came into the picture. She just pushed us over the edge. As I sit there in the quiet of the night, I realize something. Revenge didn't give me what I thought it would. It didn't heal the wounds, didn't bring back what I lost. All it did was leave me standing in the ruins, alone. I take a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. Tomorrow, I'll start again. I'll pick up the pieces, rebuild what I can. But tonight, I'm just a man who's survived the storm. The courthouse doors close behind me, but I don't feel the relief I expected. The trial is over. Clara is sentenced, her lies exposed, her manipulations brought to light. I won. But the weight of it all still clings to me, a heaviness I can't shake. I step out into the bright afternoon, the noise of the city swirling around me. Reporters line the sidewalk, their cameras pointed my way, eager for a comment, a soundbite. I push through them, ignoring the questions, the flashes. I have nothing to say. I reach my car, my hand gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The drive home is silent, the radio off, my thoughts a constant buzz of everything that's happened. Clara is going to prison. The woman who spent years plotting my destruction will be behind bars for the next decade. I should feel victorious. I should feel something, but there's only emptiness. When I pull into the driveway, the house looks different now, as if the months of fighting have changed everything about it. Or maybe it's me that's changed. I walk inside, the familiar quiet greeting me. Lily is still at school, and for a moment, I'm thankful for the solitude. I sit on the couch, staring at the family photos on the wall, images of a life that doesn't exist anymore. Marissa's face smiles back at me from every frame, and I wonder if I'll ever stop feeling the sting of her betrayal. Clara's gone, but the damage is still here. I can feel it deep in my chest. The revenge I spent so much time planning, executing, it didn't heal anything. It just left scars. I get up, pacing the length of the living room. This battle, this war with Clara, it consumed me. Every move I made, every step I took was to outmaneuver her, to make her pay. And now that it's over, I'm left standing in the ruins. My career took a hit. My colleagues, once friends, distanced themselves, afraid of the media circus that followed the case. They believed me in the end, sure, but the trust was broken long before the verdict came down. The door creaks open and Lily's small voice fills the house. "Daddy!" I turn, forcing a smile as she runs toward me, her arms outstretched. I scoop her up, holding her close, her warmth a small comfort in the cold emptiness I've been living in. She pulls back, her eyes bright. "Can we go to the park again?" "Not today, sweetheart," I say, my voice quieter than usual. "Maybe tomorrow." She frowns but doesn't argue. She's grown used to this new normal, the days of uncertainty, of waiting. I set her down, and she disappears into her room, leaving me alone with my thoughts once again. The truth is, I don't know what comes next. The revenge I sought, the justice I demanded, it's done, but the cost was high, too high. My marriage is gone, my trust shattered, my name dragged through the mud. Even with Clara's lies exposed, I can't shake the feeling that she took something from me that I can never get back. I walked to the kitchen, pouring myself a glass of water, staring out the window at the backyard. The same yard where Lily used to play while Marissa and I sat together, planning our future. It feels like a lifetime ago, another world entirely. My phone buzzes on the counter, breaking the silence. It's Steve, my lawyer. Dan just wanted to let you know Clara's legal team is done. They're not appealing. She's in custody. Thanks, Steve, I say, my voice flat. You did it, man. You can finally move on. Move on. The words hang in the air long after I hang up. Move on to what? The life I had is gone. The person I was before all this, it's like he doesn't exist anymore. Clara may be in prison, but she left her mark. She made sure I'd never be the same. I finish the water, setting the glass down with a hollow clink. I glance at the clock. Lily will be expecting dinner soon, and I force myself to get moving, to go through the motions. But as I move through the house, there's a weight I can't shake, a sense that no matter what I do, this will follow me. Later that night, after Lily's asleep, I sit on the porch, the cool air wrapping around me. The neighborhood is quiet, the stars faintly visible through the city lights. I think about the last few months, the endless hours spent plotting, gathering evidence, outwitting Clara at every turn. The satisfaction of finally bringing her down was real but fleeting. And now I'm left with the aftermath, the wreckage of what used to be my life. The revenge was necessary. I don't regret it, but it didn't bring peace. It didn't heal the wounds Clara and Marissa left behind. It just left me standing here, alone, trying to figure out what comes next. I glance at the door where inside Lily sleeps peacefully. She's the reason I kept fighting, the reason I didn't let Clara win. But I wonder if she'll ever understand the toll it took, the price I paid to protect us. I stand, stretching, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Tomorrow, I'll take Lily to the park. I'll try to rebuild what's left of our life piece by piece, but I know it'll never be the same. The scars will always be there, reminders of the battle I fought. The man I became in the process. As I walk back inside, closing the door behind me, I realize something. This isn't a victory. It's survival. I didn't win the war. I just made it through. And now all I can do is live with the choices I made, the things I've done. Revenge didn't save me. It just changed me. But maybe somehow that's enough.